I think it's working. I went live. All right. I got it working. I think I'm live. Does it look like I'm?
I don't want to be on.
Oh, somebody's there. Oh, people are popping in. Oh my God, this is really happening. Okay. Oh, hi. Hi, Andy, Megan, Deb, Chris. Hi. How are you? Oh, hi, Amy. Thanks for helping me do this. It looks like it's working. It's weird to be talking to people you don't see. Oh, I'm live. Okay. All right. I'll give people a couple of seconds and then I'll start babbling. A lot of you know me. My name's Paul Fendler. I'm a long-time runner. Very long time. Way past my prime, but at one time I was pretty quick, and now I've slowed down a lot. Oh, hi. Feel free to heckle. And feel free to ask questions right from the start, because all my answers are probably going to come back to the same common themes. So so don't be afraid to jump in, because it'll help me get going. Anyway, I was thinking about what I could offer you guys that would actually help. I'm always looking for something simple that can help just the average endurance athlete, the one you know, just the local person trying to be better. And I thought you guys, I'm assuming, I'm trying to read my audience without seeing them, but I'm assuming what you're doing is you're training in an individual, very individual sport, and you're trying to do it in a group. And you've all been given very, very different set of tools to work with. So right off the bat, there's sort of a conflict there. And what I don't think people generally realize is that the disparity in human beings and what they've been given for things like endurance sports is much, much wider than you might think. I once had the fortune of living around the corner from a fella that was he was the world indoor record holder in the mile, and he had run 3:49 indoors, and he was and he'd won the Milrose Games 8 times. And actually, if you know him, type him in. If you get him at any point, you win a prize. He won the Milrose Games 8 times. He was the first 40-year-old to run under 40 minutes, 4 minutes for the mile indoors. And he gave me an insight as to what somebody with a lot of talent was like. He took 6 months off of training when he was over 40. He went back to it for about a week and then ran 14:40 for 5K. That's 4 minutes and 40 seconds a mile. Now that's one end of the talent scale. Now I know people that have trained easily as hard as he did, put as much work in, been as dedicated, done everything right, had a good attitude, and they cannot run under 30 minutes for 5K, and they have nothing at all to be ashamed about. So the first thing I'd like to kind of communicate is that you are in this group thing and you're all doing it and you're looking at training programs and you're comparing, but you're all very, very different, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to accept it and understand yourself and know what you are and what you're starting with and what you have to work with. When I work with individuals, one of the biggest things I almost always have to overcome, especially if somebody is just an average person, is a sort of a dissatisfaction with themselves, kind of a lack of self acceptance, a lack of this feeling that I'm not good enough, I don't know how to push myself, I'm not tough enough, I don't have the willpower, and that usually couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, it's often the opposite. It's often they have too much willpower. The trouble with this dissatisfaction, if that dissatisfaction grows too large, and this would apply to anyone, if the dissatisfaction with where you are versus where you want to be is too big, it will lead to overreaching. And overreaching will break consistency. And as I was watching Tim Snow, who was on, I think, last week, and he was awesome. And he was totally right. He said consistency is king, and overreaching will kill consistency. And anything that kills consistency is something you do not want in any endurance training program. Endurance is about that underachieving regularly, day by day, pecking away at it. I mean, if you're going to be tough on yourself getting out the door. But once you're out the door, it's a lot of it's about moderation, particularly with running. Think of training like the training is a dose and you're getting response in terms of dose and response. And if you overreach because you're pushing too hard, you're not satisfied, you're reaching to do too much at once, it's like an overdose. So you definitely want to stay away from that. You want a certain amount of self-acceptance. And I'm speaking to triathletes mostly, right? If somebody can give me a yes. Just make sure you're all there. Okay, maybe not. All right. Anyway, where was I? Oh, I was talking about triathletes. Well, if any of you ever have a problem with self-esteem, I have a very good solution to that. Just private message me, and I will send you a video of me swimming. Because you will never, ever feel... Actually, what I should do is send a video of me swimming that also cuts over to my wife watching me swim. And you will never have seen anything like this. It's like watching somebody...
You wouldn't believe it.
See, that's my wife vouching for it. It's, sometimes I'll say to somebody, I can't swim that well, and they'll say, oh, I can help you swim. Let's see what you can do. And, I'll go in the water and swim, and I'll come out, and I'll say, what do you think? And they're like, I can't help you. So, so if anyone has any trouble with self-esteem, please just, I can show you that while I may have been a good runner at one time, it doesn't apply across the board. Now, I think in my itinerary, I said I thought I'd cover defining your training in a way that caters to this individuality. And when we do group workouts, you can see, those of you that are in the group workouts will notice I always define them by duration and intensity. So duration or time, and intensity or effort level. Now, some of you might define your training as opposed to distance and pace, or miles and speed. The advantage to defining workouts in this way is your workout becomes comparable across the board to each other. If, for example, you're doing a workout of 5 by 3 minutes, and everyone's doing it at a pace that they could hold for 20 minutes if they had to, you're all virtually doing the same workout, and you can accommodate this wide variety of talent levels and abilities. So anyone that coaches a wide disparity of people, this is a good tip. But it's also important to look at your own training in terms of duration and intensity, because a lot of these programs that you'll get online, like for the marathon or triathlons, I'm more familiar with the running, of course, will define training in terms of miles. You know, like you look at a typical marathon training program and it'll say 8 on, Monday off, 8 on Tuesday, 5 on Wednesday, 7 miles on Thursday, day off, long run on Saturday, 15. And that is a crude way to describe training, because 15 miles for somebody that runs a 2:40 marathon is not going to be anything. That experience is going to be nothing like what it's like for somebody that runs 4:30 for the marathon. And what often happens to people I know is that they follow by the miles these training programs, and because they haven't converted it and thought about the time it's going to take them, they end up doing 3 and 4 hour workouts that effectively do the overdose thing. It's too much stress that they can't recover from. So if you start defining your training, or at least looking at it in terms of, the minutes, the hours you're putting in, and the effort level you're putting in, I think you'll find that's a more useful and a more comparable way to go about training, and to understand what you're doing. And to be honest, if you're, it's a way of giving more respect to your training, because some of you that are slower will see that you actually are putting in a lot of training. I've known people that run maybe 2:10 for the half marathon that are essentially training as much and as hard as somebody running 1:15 for the half marathon. They just don't realize it because they're not covering the same amount of distance. So could somebody type something into the chat, just so I know everybody is still breathing out there? This is really weird. Oh, there they are. I got it. Oh, I had to. Oh, look. Oh, I'm so dense. I'm looking at it, and I hadn't moved in like 20, 15 minutes, and I thought nobody's there. I'm just boring them to tears. Okay. Oh, still here. Thanks, Mike. Sorry. It's just so weird. Normally, I have these glazed looks to look at when I'm talking in a group. There's one. And then I can kind of read the crowd, but I with this, I don't have it. So, okay, marathoner and dabbling. Okay, I'm just a runner guy. Oh, great. Okay. I mean, yeah, I'm just, this is good. I'm relieved to find out there's people. Oh, hi, Deb. There's people still here. So anyway, I hope you absorbed that, looking at the training in terms of duration and intensity. Now, you'd say, well, how do I measure intensity? So in case I blanked, I wrote little ways to do that. So I didn't forget, and kind of, so doing it in duration is time, and it's the same for everybody. 60 minutes is 60 minutes for a faster guy or a slower guy. Actually, Mike Merrill, you're good that you're here, because I think you switched to doing this with your track team, where you did intervals in terms of time instead of distance, so that everybody was, you didn't have the fast people waiting around having this extra long recovery, and the slow people getting no recovery. And so you did it by time and effort level, and now everybody is doing basically the same workout and getting the same basic effect. As far as intensity, there's good ways. There's several good ways to measure intensity. Now, first of all, on the subject of intensity, let me say that running, and I see a lot of people are runners here, running is harder than you think. And actually, Tim brought this up as well. He said that runners tend to train 30 to 40 seconds faster than they should. I've never heard it described that way, but it's, I thought that was pretty accurate. It's just one, if you've ever put heart monitors on people, you'd be surprised at how hard they're working. A lot of triathletes don't like the running part and think it's harder. And the reason they think it's harder is because it is. It's just you're moving a lot of muscle mass, and it's you don't think you're working as hard as you are. So on the subject of intensity, the tendency in general is to train at too high an intensity. And most of the time when I coach somebody, it's mostly, it goes like this: you need to slow down. You need to slow down and go a little further, and that's sort of the end of the coaching right there. And that's me telling them that for months on end. But many people, and I've had a few good from listeners, Mike. Sure did, yeah, and it works. So where was I? Oh, I was going to say that I have good examples of people, I don't want to mention their names, but they're local people who were kind of blocked, and they were good runners. And I mentioned to them, I said, you just need, and they weren't doing too well at the marathon. I said, you just need to slow down a bit, especially your easy days, and up your miles. And I know of 3 that did it, and they were all kind of mediocre, and they all broke 240. And one of them actually went on, he lives in Ireland, and went on to be a 222 marathoner. And they all did just that. They just slowed down, they ran more, and I got no credit at all. Nothing. It you know, nothing. Here I am, you know, and that really bugs me. No, I'm just kidding. But they did it, and they succeeded. So so just in general, people tend to run too fast. And if you find yourself good at shorter events and not being able to carry it through to the marathon, it's probably you're on that, you know, you're probably training a bit too fast. Now, ways to measure intensity. I'll give you a few quick ones. You can measure intensity by the relationship of your pace to maybe your 5K time, if you know it. So if your 5K time is 20 minutes, then that's, I think, 6:24 pace, 6:25 pace, or thereabouts. You know, like an easy, you can, like a tempo pace would be that plus 40 to 50 seconds a mile, or so we're up at 7:20 pace is kind of a upbeat, not an easy pace. If you're looking for an easy day, it's 5K pace plus 2 to 3 minutes a mile. So maybe easier than you think. Some of you might be running 7:30 for 5K and think an easy day is 8:20. It's not really. It's more like 9:30 a mile. And I can tell you regarding intensity that it's really interesting. But rowers, runners, bikers, guilty. The elite folks in those sports all tend to run about 80 of their miles and do the 80 to 80% of their work, their volume at easy, which is well below, well below max capacity. It's like their 5K pace plus 2 minutes. And they do another 10% in kind of a gray area, and then they do another 10% fairly hard. Whatever you do, don't get too hung up on those numbers. It's just a concept that the bulk of your training should be on the easier side, because you can take that same, even though it might not be elite, you can take that concept and those ratios and that idea of more training being easy and apply it to yourself. You can also use a heart rate monitor to measure intensity. And I think in the description of tonight, we said we're going to talk about heart rate training. I'm just going to touch on it because it's sort of a topic all its own. But as far as heart rate training goes, the advantage of heart rate training is that your heart rate is a biofeed, a heart monitor is a biofeedback mechanism, and it can tell you if you, more than anything, it can tell you if you are improving or you are not improving. If you can run, for example, 8-minute pace at 140 beats a minute, and then 2 months later you can run 7-minute pace at 140 beats a minute, you are faster. So it's really good at measuring progress. It's also where's the other advantage? Oh yeah, it's also a really good way to make sure that your easy days are easy. However, it requires that you learn how to use it. And the heart rate monitor can also tip you off to health problems, things like arrhythmias and just unusual health issues that people have. I've known a few people I coach that have actually found they had like they went into AFib, and I don't want to scare anybody, but it's a good biofeedback mechanism. Thing about heart monitors, there's big disadvantages. Sometimes they don't work, and they're really messing with your head. The other is they take a while to learn how to use. And then the third thing is that they're kind of complicated, and your heart rate is very particular to you. Everybody's, again, very different. So if you want to learn about heart rate training, the first thing is to just strap one on and observe what's happening with your heart, and then bit by bit you'll pick up techniques to learn what's easy, what's hard. But I don't want to get into that too much because it's such a topic all its own. The last way to define intensity would be, and this is my favorite way, is to say I'm going to define this workout by how long I think I can hold this pace. An easy pace is one you can hold for 4 hours if you had to. A moderate pace is one you can hold for 2 hours, 2.5 hours if you could. You don't really know, but this gives you a feel like, is this easy day? If you're out there on a recovery day and you're huffing and puffing, and you have to ask yourself, could I really hold this for 3 or 4 hours if I had to? If you can't, then it's too hard. So how long you can hold a pace is a good idea of intensity. Do I have any questions? Oh, Mary, you got a question here. I'm really rambling, but can you keep doing high miles if they're slow? Okay, Mary, I know you so well that that you bring up a good topic. The slowing down and doing more miles things is great, but it depends on your training age. it depends how long you have been training, not your actual biological age, but your training age. My training age is like 45 years. Mary, as yours is up there as well. What ends up happening with the slow down and do more volume method is after 10, 15, it worked for me for about 20, 25 years. And it worked best in the beginning. And then the effects started to decline. And then after about 25, 30 years, that doing more volume did not work. In the early years, every big transformation I ever saw by any endurance athlete happened with increases in volume, but it stopped working. And you may be at that stage where you have to be more discerning, and that if the high miles aren't working, they're not working, and you'll probably need more variety and more gear changing. But I know we've discussed this a lot, and we haven't come to an answer, and neither have I about my own self. But there's nothing wrong with doing a lot of high miles if they're slow, but you should, everything I've said is all about trial and error. And if you're not getting any response, after 2-3 weeks of anything, and maybe it should be a little longer, maybe a month of anything, then you just have to say to yourself, this is not, I'm not responding. Why is it? Is it my health? Is it, is something chemically off, structurally off? Am I sitting around too much? Do I have a habit that is inhibiting me, is blocking my progress? But everybody should always be, looking at their training. It should always be, it's a constant trial and error. It's a constant try something, see how you react. You have to pay attention. Let's see, did I miss it? If you put a question in and I missed it, please redo it, okay? Let's see. Mary, did that answer your question? Probably not. Give me something. Guilty from listening to you. Okay. How to break out of the base. Oh, Mark Oliver. How to break out of the base rut. Pushing it really hurts. Mark, are you there? Tell me what you mean about how to break out of the base rut. Oh, you've only been doing base, maybe. Oh, good, Mary. James Hawley joined. Hi, James. Mark, I'm going to assume that you have been doing a lot of easy miles, and you're trying to add a little intensity. So let's say you've just been doing nothing but plodding, and now you want to add a little variety because you're getting nowhere. That's a common situation, and you do want to add some, maybe some light speed, some light fartlek to your schedule, but you now have to compensate for that by going slower on your easy days. So sometimes you actually back up a little bit, and I've been in this situation a million times where I just got into ruts where I was just doing miles and miles and miles and got very stagnant. So the way out of it was I took a few days and went easier than normal, and then added some speed. Now that's a big word, speed, but if I knew you better, I could tell you exactly what that would mean to you. But if you go on, actually, if anyone wants to ask questions later or ask me individual things, go I think you can join Cape Cod Coaching as a Facebook group, and you can always ask me something there. I'll put you in the group, or you can friend me or whatever. in case I don't, if I know your specific situation, but how about speed work? Okay. Yes, Mark, sure. You can do speed work, but start, I don't know if you're a triathlete or a runner. If you're a triathlete, the speed work should probably be in smaller doses because everything is so interconnected and you're on such a, you know, one thing can throw the other off so easily. If you're going to do speed work, you know, you can start. We have a great workout this week. It was the first one in the Cape Cod coaching group, and everybody could do it. And it was, you jogged very easy for 15 to 30 minutes. Then you did 10 to 15 minutes of what I call 30-30s. You just pick up for 30 seconds at a speed you might be able to hold for only 10 minutes, so kind of quick. And then you jog, or depending on your level, it could even be a walk for 30 seconds recovery, and you do that for 10 to 15 minutes, and then you cool down. So that's a great starter for speed work, because the thing about speed work is it's so seductive because it's great. It gives you very good short-term results, and it's vital, but it's easy to OD on it. And it has its effect is short term. The miles are much more long term. So with speed work, think small doses in general. You know, I remember, and boy, have I learned all this stuff. Everything you're hearing here, I've learned it by doing it wrong so badly. Especially when I first started, that I thought speed work, I thought it was, you know, it was like heroin, because my times just plummeted when I first started doing it. But I had like 3 years of doing nothing but jogging. And if you take somebody like that and you give them, you know, one track workout a week, they got the base and they improve dramatically. But then I went up to like 3 speed workouts a week, and you know then I had an injury that lasted a year. And I took up biking, and I had a 5-week biking career, and I crashed 3 times and ended up in the hospital, and my bike turned into a pretzel. So there's that story. Anyway, Deb, hills. Yeah, the same. Hills are good. I like them because they're a form of speed work in a sense, but you have to accommodate them in the totality of your program. You don't, with speed work or hills or any added intensity, you just don't jam them in there to what you're doing. You have to ease up, not take days off, but ease up on other days so that you have enough juice to do them well when you do go to do them. So, and with hills or speed, you know, you start in small doses. You gently increase, and then you're going to find benefit, and then the benefit of both hills, speed, all intensity is going to kind of plateau, and at that point you want to back off a little bit, and then the most traditional way of doing hills is prior to introducing speed, because it builds a little strength. It gets you used to a higher intensity. It helps your function. I find it. I've been doing a lot of hills lately, and it's put a little bit of power back in my legs. But with all this hills and speed, you have to consider what it is you're training for. If your event is a Ironman, you need very, very small doses. Although some speed will definitely help. Deb, did you want to like specifics of how to do a hill workout? There's different kinds. There's long hills, short hills. If you're, sometimes if your form is poor, little 8-second hill charges with long recoveries can develop, can improve your form without really, you can do it on an easy day, because you got plenty of recovery, and you're just basically, it's basically for your mechanics. It's like you're talking right to me about track. Dwight, yes, I did wear a helmet, and I squashed it on the last accident. Thank God. This was in 1983 that this happened. That was the end of my bike career. So swimming out, I already told you about that. Biking out, now that you've lost all respect. Yes. Yes, yeah, that's absolutely right. And I know you, and you have a good bit of speed and power. And people that are wired that way, like if you were a good sprinter when you're young, you're a good jumper, you're going to like speed more than somebody that's just a sled dog. And to be honest, you can do a little bit more speed than others if if you were like if you were very fast when you were young, you're like in the 400 meter or the 200 meter, you can actually you would think you would do long distance now and work on your weakness, but it doesn't actually work that way. You'll be more wired to do a little bit more frequent speed, and you may yeah, but you have to watch the intensity. You can't do workouts where your tongue's hanging out 3 times a week. But you can break up distance runs into almost like moderate intervals. So instead of doing, let's say, an 8-mile run, a real speed-oriented person could do a warm-up jog and then 5 by a mile at like a pace you could hold for an hour, so not that hard, and you could put like 2-minute recoveries in between, and that's for a person that was born born with a little more power. They can jump, that's a sign. Real marathoners, they can't jump really that well. Triathletes, they're slow twitch people. Dwight's a good example of somebody with some power. I think he played fullback, and so you notice he excels in the shorter triathlons, and he excels on the bike because that's more of a power event. Let's see. Oh, Dwight, you should be. What should the running speed work approach be when you're also doing Dwight? Yeah, don't we all, Andy? Dwight, it's always concerned me that you have that time trial every week, and often the speed work is the night before. I don't like that much, but you guys, you and Kathleen, it's hard to argue with your consistency. You've been so good for so long, and I think if you're gonna ride that hard time trial, you've got to do a very moderate speed workout, because you're doing one after the other, and it's a lot of intensity jammed into a 26-hour period. Ideally, I would prefer you separated them by, did one Tuesday, one Thursday, or something like that. But it's hard to mess with. You guys have such a good system going. It's hard to mess with it. So to answer your question, I would be very conservative with the speed work and do it. I'm always telling people to do these intervals at 30-minute at a pace you can hold for 30 minutes, and the reason I do that is I learned that from a coach, Tom Schwartz. He coached the marathon, USA marathon champ, not this year, but last year, or maybe it was 2018, Brogan Austin. And I had him coach me for a little while, and he used to use these things called CV, critical velocity intervals. And they're intervals that the pace is a pace you can hold for 30 minutes. And he'd found, and my experiences jived with it, that pace is a real sweet spot of, it helps your speed, it helps your endurance, it doesn't beat you up too badly, and you don't, it doesn't set your training back. You can continue to train. You've got to watch the speed workout. It's better to always underdo it rather than overdo it. So, Dwight, I'm still sort of talking to you that if you can find that CV, critical velocity pace, which is a pace you can hold for 30 minutes and do repeats at that, I think you'll be okay, putting those workouts fairly close together. Dwight has to be careful. Yeah. Running back. Right. No, the time trial's every other week. Okay. So you can be a little more aggressive, or maybe a little more volume on the day that, on the weeks where you don't have the time trial. Actually, maybe you just do a running speed workout one week, and the time trial the next week. And on the weeks you have the time trial, just run distance. I don't know if you'd, I mean, that's what I would do. The running is, it's very hard on you. It's much harder than you think. By the way, I've noticed that triathletes, there's something good about triathlons for people. They often have very, very long careers, and they don't have the decline that long-time runners do. And that's a good thing, I think. So those of you that are triathletes, keep doing it. I wish I could participate, but unless they have a sink, crash, stagger triathlon, I'm out of luck. Let's see. Anybody else? Just give me anything you got. Did you wear a helmet? Yes. Mark. Hey, Mark, did we answer your question? I don't know if we hit on that enough. Mark, if I haven't seen your question, please. Oh, Sam Lylewood. You got it. Yes, it was Eamon Coughlin. Right. A little off on the spelling, but yeah, it was Eamon Coughlin was he moved around the corner from me when I lived in Raleigh, New York, and he was too fast to train with, but a couple of times he slowed down and kept me company. But he was, he taught me how elite an elite athlete is. It's way more than anyone could realize. Oh, Andy, yes, okay. Lately, it seems the triathlon coaches are suggesting reducing running volume in favor of cycling time, that you can gut out the run in the race. But there has to be a threshold number of miles one must do each week to keep adequate leg strength. Well, I think the shorter the triathlon, that's a good question. And that would depend on the makeup of the triathlete. If you have a bigger triathlete that is, excels in the swim, is a monster on the bike, and they're big and they're not really a natural runner, then I don't know if you want to just gut out the run race, but I can see wanting to favor the cycling time instead of putting a lot of time in running, because if you don't have the body type for running, it could be very hard on you. Now, as far as the amount of miles, and by the way, this is very to answer your question properly, it's very contingent upon which distance of triathlon you're talking about. I mean, if you're doing an Ironman, you're not going to gut out nothing. So, you know, nor a half Ironman. That you need a certain amount of, and to go back to a previous point, you know, don't think in terms of miles, think about a duration. You're going to need to spend some time running. Now, it doesn't have to be hard, and if you go easier, you can do more. But if the event is longer, I think you can. It becomes more and more important that you get a certain amount of volume of running training. Now, I've never done a triathlon, so I don't know, but I know that, you know, I know how long they take. And I know that even the good people can take 4 or 5 hours for a half Ironman. So that's, you know, and I know that's a 13-mile run. So you don't want to, you can't fake your way through that. Now, shorter triathlons, for sure, you can get by on a lot less miles, and you can get by on a probably pretty low intensity on your running. I don't know if you've ever seen George Bent train, but I would love to know exactly how he does it. But he hammers his bike workouts, and I've never seen him swim, but I know he swims. And then he goes to the track, and he does these workouts that are the easiest things you've ever seen. I hope I'm not giving away his secrets or anything. I'm not bound by HIPAA or no. Anyway, he runs really easy, and he actually runs. He'll walk he's out the track, and he'll jog for an hour, and he just puts in this easy intensity, and it works on his running gait, and he just does it gently, but he's a short course triathlete, and he definitely gets through okay. So Andy, I would say if your event is you know, a sprint, you can get by on a couple of hours a week of training, and then it ramps up from there. You know, and depending on what kind of I've seen you run, I'm trying to remember, you seem pretty balanced, but it seemed maybe the swimming and well, I've seen you swim, and you're awesome. I watched it the other day with those paddles. You were excellent. So I'm assuming you're better at those. So, you know, so do some running, make sure it's not too hard. Just think small doses regularly. Don't suffer out there. That goes to everybody. Don't get, you know, don't do training you can't sustain. You know, start all your workouts gently. Actually, of all the things, it took me 48 minutes and 19 seconds to give you the best tip I have for running, and that is start your workouts very gently, like you're old man. Some of you are, but but start them easy. You know, Mike Merrill, go out there like the Kenyans. You know, they start at 9 minutes a mile. Just trust me. Just try it. It's the best advice I can give, and then you might find you can do more and develop more volume safely, and that you don't hate it so much. Let's see, Amy. And lots of runs on tired legs. That's worked for me. Oh, okay, good. That's a good tip. Yeah, actually, I would think, seeing them both like George Bent, yeah, I would think that, and again, now I'm talking about something I have no business talking about, but I would think triathletes would want to really work on that bike to run conversion a lot, the transition. I've biked enough indoors on trainers in gyms and then gone out and run enough to know how difficult that is. So, you know, don't be afraid to, after hard bikes, to just jog, or even just regular bike rides, put in a mile or two afterwards, just to neurologically get used to that transition. And I saw what Tim said about, should I bike after I run or run after I bike? If you're doing a more serious run, don't do it after a hard bike, and that makes perfect sense. Let's see. Okay. Deb, did we answer the hill thing? I don't know. Maybe not here. Maybe not at all. Wake up. I'm just kidding. Lots of runs on tired legs. Seem to walk to the. Okay. Well, if that's all, I guess I'm saying goodbye. No hugging, I guess. Dave. Oh, Dave, you just came now. You missed all my best stuff. I'll give it to you in 1 minute. Start all your runs really easy. Underachieve every day. Regularly. Be consistent. Be hard on yourself to get out the door. Develop like a soft stoicism. Does that make sense? Where you always go out there, you always do it, but you're not too hard on yourself. There, that's it. That's everything I got. That's how you do really long effort. Oh, look at all these people saying, what about your workouts? Oh, Andy, okay. Well, oh, good. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. You guys are terrific. Well, we normally in the summer we have a running group, which we can't have because the track's closed, and we tried it last week and we got in trouble. So I got scolded by a young man. And so what we're doing is I'm just giving weekly workouts online at the Cape Cod Coaching Facebook page. So I think you can ask to be put in the group, and I just put you in, or if you friend me, I'll put you, I'll know, and I'll put you right in the group, and you can see what workouts we're doing. And please, just if you have any questions or there's anything you'd ever want to bounce off me, if you think I could help. I love talking about endurance sports, and I just tell you things that worked for me, and I'm not like some sort of authority on anything. I just have years of bangs and bruises and experiences that I can share, and you can take them for what they're worth. But yeah, at Cape Cod Coaching is the Facebook page, and that's it. And then you can reach me on Facebook. My email is paulfendler@yahoo.com, and I'm happy to talk training there. So I guess that's it. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope this was okay. Thanks, Andy and Kathleen and Amy, for getting me onto this thing. Okay. Bye-bye.